All right, let's just jump right in. You know that phone in your pocket? The one you probably can't live without? Well, it's got this incredible story hidden inside, like a whole century of innovation crammed into that little slab of glass and metal. And today, we're going to unpack that whole story. I mean, seriously, just stop and think about it for a second. This thing in your hand translates languages on the fly. It fixes your photos before you even notice they're blurry. And it somehow just gets what you're asking it. It totally feels like magic, right? But it's not. It's actually some insanely sophisticated artificial intelligence humming away behind the scenes.
So the big question is, how on earth did we get here? How do we leap from a device that just made calls to this little brain in our pocket that basically helps run our lives? Well, the answer is probably not what you're expecting.
Yeah, because this isn't a story about one single invention or some lone genius having a eureka moment. No, it's more like a slow burn revolution. It's a story about innovations getting stacked on top of each other, layer by layer, for over 100 years. And to really get how your phone got so smart, we've got to go all the way back to the start. And when I say way back, I mean way back. The real ghost in this machine, the bedrock technology that everything else is built on, it's radio. The whole journey to the smartphone actually starts long before we ever had silicon chips or the internet. Yep, you heard that right. Trains. We're talking the 1920s. Engineers were scratching their heads over this massive problem. How do you keep a phone call going on something that's, well, moving? So as they figured out these super fundamental things, like how to hand off a signal from one tower to the next without dropping the call, or how to deal with all the interference, they had no idea. But they were literally building the foundation for the entire cellular network we use every single day. So once you see those radio routes, the rest of the path just kind of snaps into focus. You can see the clear line from there to the very first handheld call, then the first phones you could actually buy, then that huge pivot to data and apps, and finally, bam, the AI integration we're all living with today. Every single step is standing on the shoulders of the one that came before it. Okay, so we've got the foundation set. Now, let's talk about the breakthrough. This is the moment, the point where the whole idea of a personal portable phone jumps right off the pages of science fiction and lands in the real world. Just one call. That's all it took. Back in 1973, an engineer from Motorola is standing on a street corner in New York City, and he makes the world's very first public call from a handheld cell phone. It was just one moment, one single call, but it absolutely changed everything. And look, the tech was cool, for sure. But the real breakthrough, it was all in the idea. This moment proved that a phone number didn't have to be stuck to a wall in your house or a desk in an office. It could be tied to you, to a person. All of a sudden, communication was completely untethered. Now, it wasn't instant. It took another whole decade of just relentless engineering to shrink that massive prototype into something people could actually buy. But when that first, brick phone finally hit the market in the 80s, that was it. The world was officially on a brand new path. The revolution was on. But, just making calls on the go, that was never going to be the end of the story. The next giant leap was turning this thing from just a voice gadget into a powerful platform for data, for apps. This is the moment the phone stopped being just a tool we carry and started becoming a portal we live through. And this shift was absolutely fundamental. I mean, we went from a feature phone, a device for calls and texts where companies made money selling the phone itself, to a smartphone, a true pocket computer, a platform that powers this massive economy of apps, media, and all sorts of services, all running on these amazing little chips and sensors. And let's be real, none of this happens without the unsung heroes of this whole story, the engineers. We love to talk about the famous CEOs and inventors, but it was this slow, grinding, relentless work of thousands of people making batteries that were somehow smaller and more powerful, designing computer chips that were ridiculously efficient, and shrinking these complex sensors down to sizes you can't even see. That's what made the smartphone actually possible. And while all this was happening with the phones themselves, the networks were evolving right alongside them. Think of it like leveling up. First, we got analog voice for basic calls. Then we leveled up to digital, which gave us texting. Then we got mobile data, so you could kind of browse the internet. And now we're at broadband speeds with 5G, where our phones are basically always on computers. See, each new generation didn't just get faster, it unlocked completely new things you could do with your phone. Which brings us right up to today, the final layer of this story, which you could call the awakening.
This is where we take all that incredible hardware and all that speedy connectivity and we inject it with intelligence. We create a phone that doesn't just wait for you to tell it what to do, but starts to actually anticipate what you need.
So, the secret sauce for all this modern phone AI is something called hybrid intelligence. And it's pretty clever. It's not just one big AI brain trying to do everything. It's more like a team. You've got some AI tasks that happen right there on your phone, the stuff that needs to be super fast and totally private. And then for the really heavy-duty stuff, the phone calls on the massive power of the cloud.
So here's how that actually works in your day-to-day life. The AI on your device, that's what gives you the instant response from your voice assistant, or immediately makes your photos look better. And critically, it keeps your data on your phone, so it's private. Then there's the cloud AI. That's the powerhouse that handles your super complex searches or does the insane number crunching needed to train new AI. And the beauty is, your phone is constantly, seamlessly switching between them, always picking the right tool for the job.
But what's the ingredient that makes all this AI actually useful and not just a cool trick? It's the sensors. Your camera, the microphone, GPS, all those motion sensors. They're like the phone's eyes and ears. They give the AI all this raw data about your context. Where you are, what you're doing. The AI takes that context and turns it into smart, personalized actions. That's where the real magic comes from.
So, when you pull it all together and trace this story all the way back, you realize something. That thing in your hand, it's not just a gadget. It's a monument, really. A monument to 100 years of human curiosity and our relentless desire to solve problems. I mean, think about it. Those first quirky radio experiments on trains, the huge economic bets that built the networks, the mind-bogglingly precise engineering of silicon chips, and now the slow fusion with artificial intelligence. All of it, every single piece, is sitting right there in the palm of your hand. It's just an incredible legacy.
Which, of course, leaves us with one last really big question for the future. We've built these devices that are just insanely powerful. They augment our own abilities in ways people a generation ago couldn't even imagine. So the real challenge for us, for the next chapter, is figuring out how to walk that super fine line between powerful assistance and just straight up dependence. So I'll leave you with this. Where do you think that line is?